Hello boys and girls, welcome to Cromwell Valley. I'm Ranger Kirk. Glad to see everybody again. Today we have a special program which we like to call Hike into History. This program is pretty cool because this valley, Cromwell Valley, is filled with historical sites, historical buildings, and structures all over the place. This valley was first inhabited at sometime around 1740. Imagine that. That's before the Revolutionary War. That's before the French and Indian War. So there's just a plethora of all kinds of cool things. This program is going to allow you guys to come with us and discover some of those historic sites, and we're going to actually do some of the historic activities that people did on a regular basis. So that'll be pretty cool. But can you imagine this valley as a wilderness in 1740s? You would have been at night able to hear wolves howling. That would have been frightening if you were a colonist at the time. There certainly would have been bear here and deer, probably elk up on these hillsides. I'm sure Native Americans were passing through this valley at that time period. So there's a lot of amazing history that goes along with this park. Let's get started on our hike into history. Come with me. So, boys and girls, we've made it to where the kiln is, and this one dates to 1780s or so. And it's what was called an intermittent burn box kiln. And that means that what people had to do was to load this thing up with layers of wood and then layers of marble. And they were burning marble from this valley because this valley is full of marble. There's a quarry only about 200 yards from where we are. And what the people were doing is layering this big structure with wood and marble. And then they would set fire to it down in here. Now what you can see right here, these are air holes that they used to control the fire and how much it burned. So they probably had wooden plugs that would be inside of here. This thing would take 9 to 12 days to burn completely out. And when they did that, they had to then let it get cool so that they could come to this opening here, and inside a man could go and he could take out what once was marble but now was turned into something we call lime. And lime was used to help the fields grow crops. It was used for paint. It was used for making this mortar that's in between all these stones and so forth. So this is one of the places you have to find. It's a particular kiln called the RISTEAU kiln, because that's the first family that was in the valley, and they're the ones who began building these things. So this thing was in operation for quite some time. Let's go up top and take a look at what made it special. This thing is about 18 to 20 feet high, and this type of kiln, the RISTEAU kiln, the intermittent burn box, had no chimney. And so you can see all this marble here in the top. So the burn started at the bottom of the kiln, at the very bottom, and so as the heat rose up through these layers of rock, it would heat each layer until they all got hot. And then basically all this stuff would begin to settle down as it burned and turned into the lime, which is what they were after. But that is this is the original product that they were after. See, that's sparkly Cockeysville marble right there. And this was quarried right here on the site. This thing also, you'll note, where I'm standing, this kiln was built into the side of the hill, and it was built here for stability, to help hold it up. So really, it only had the outer wall, about 3 walls. And in between those layers, I'm going to walk over here, under this stone on the top was a layer of sand and clay underneath that. And that kind of acted like an insulator. Think of a thermos, if you will, that had the fire on the inside of it. So the question for you is, these people were making this to sell, right? They were merchants of lime. Now they had to keep track of that. They had to. How did they do it? What did they have? Do you think they had a Bic pen? Do you think they had a, one of those orange pencils? they had to keep track. So that meant mathematics, that meant writing. I wonder how they did it. Well, you know what? I think we need to go and find out how they kept track of the amount of lime that they made. So let's go. All right, boys and girls, remember we were at the lime kilns and I said, well, how in the world are we going to keep track of the amount of lime that we made? They had to have a means of doing that. They surely did. And of course, we were talking about, we write it down. So it requires mathematics. You know, they would add up how much it was worth, how much they were going to sell it for, and they would write that down. And that would go into what was called a ledger book. So in this case, we're going to sit here and we're going to show you how to make a writing pen. And it has to be made just so. The cool thing is, in our PDFs, you will see this series of pictures that we've drawn. And we're going to go through these things step by step. So if you download these and you're watching this show from home, you can do this with me. So our first step in making one, I'm going to take a look at these different quills to see what I have. And I like this guy. That's pretty neat. That's a swan feather, but I think I'm going to use this turkey feather. Now, what you can do is, it says number one is to tear off the webbing. What does that mean? That means this. You just grab the stuff here, you hold on to the quill, that's the hard thing, and pull. Look at that. Came right off. Sometimes they left a decorative tuft on the end. This is awfully big, but I'll leave it just for the fun of it. And I'm going to pull it off of this side. Look at that. Comes off. This step is very quick and very easy to do. There you go. And last little bit of it coming off. Already starting to look like a pen, isn't it? Look at that. Wow. Okay, then we're going to look at the end of the quill right here, which is what we have at the top. And then our second step is we're going to cut off the top of this. So I'm going to hold my pen so it's held like this, and then I'm going to make a cut just like this, going straight up. See that? All right, so now we're at this stage right here. It says cut away the tip of the feather shaft, remove the membrane inside the quill. In this case, the membrane's way down in there, so I can't really get at it, and that's fine. So I'm just going to carve it up. So that's what it should look like first off. Now, we want to make a slit in the tip of this, and that's going to be something that helps hold the ink. So we're going to make a slit. So we're going to basically turn the pen upside down, put it on a piece of wood. I can use this table, and I'm going to put my knife blade right here in the middle, just like you see here on number 4, and push down on it. And it should cut it or crack it open. In this case, it's pretty tough. There it is. You hear that? That's what we wanted to hear. And now I'm going to cut it like this. And it may have a little bit of sloppy ends to it, so you might have to do a little bit of trimming. There it is. So basically now we're at this stage, like that. And this is what this thing is going to look like. The quill cut in half where the slit in the shaft of this is made. Okay? So now we have to shape a point on one side of the slit. So what I do is I make from this one cut here, we're going to trim it down, and we're going to cut down so we get near the tip. Like that. Now I got to do the same to the other side. So again, you just reach right here. And this is that secondary cut. It's kind of important for these to work properly. So you trim it. Instead of trying to do a whole big bunch at one time, I try to do a little slit at each time, and I'm checking the edge of it as I go along to get it down to that tip. Okay, so basically the cut, see, it has a first zoop, and then it has the second one leading down to the point, and the point has the split. I don't know if that's visible in the picture, but it has that. That's good. Okay, and in theory, this is near finished. So I'm going to scrape the edges of this a little bit, and then we'll test it out. Okay. All right, so here's our pen that we completed, and what's the next thing you need? Well, people needed ink way back when, and there was a variety of ways of making ink. You guys can make ink at home as well if you want, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. Number one, I have this whole handful of these funny looking things. And if you don't know what those are, that's understandable. These are called oak bullet galls. These are structures that form on the branches and the twigs in the oak trees, and they're caused by a little wasp that stings the twig or the leaf, and then this structure grows around the egg and the baby. Well, people would take these things and soak them in water and crush them, and these things give off a very dark brown dye in the liquid. And that was one way of creating ink. They also used walnuts, and they would boil. Here's a walnut container. It has dark brown wood. It also happens to have, if you boil the nuts of walnut, you will get a very dark brown ink, which is what's in here. And they would make it so it would not grow mold and mildew. They added salt and vinegar to it. In our case, for you guys at home, there's no need to go through this elaborate process because, of course, you could go to the store and buy, that's Higgins Fountain Pen Ink, India ink. Of course, that makes a big mess, and Mom and Dad are probably watching this in horror. What else can you do? Well, I have made some ink, and you'll never guess what that is. I'll mix it around. Look at that. It's dark, it's brown. It looks like the walnut ink. And in reality, you know what that is? You get Mom and Dad to go to the store and buy, it doesn't have to be decaf if you want full strength, and just get coffee. And this freeze-dried coffee, I just kept adding it to a water mixture until it was, you want your ink to be liquidy, yes, but if it's got the slightest bit of thickness to it, or here's a new word, viscosity, then it works better with the pen. So I'm going to demonstrate with my coffee ink. And of course, if you spill this, you just throw your, whatever it is you spilled it on, into the laundry. Whereas the walnut ink probably would not be the best. So I'm going to, you dip your pen in, and you hold your pen so that the cuts are down, not up like this. That's wrong. That is right. See how that liquid stays right there? And the little split in the quill is going to help to funnel that ink down to the tip. So let's give it a try. So here's some nice quality paper, makes a big difference too. So Marilyn, here you go. And by the way, you should have just a light pressure on this when you're doing it. Maryland, Baltimore County. And we'll demonstrate with other inks while we're here, just for the heck of it. Baltimore County. Let's make the date 1748. Imagine what it was like then. Again, we'll write Baltimore County and see how this works. This is the walnut ink. Ooh, look at that. So if you really want to make colonial style ink, look how that writes. That's really nice. Maryland. Of course, if you get this all over you, you spill it on Mom's carpet, she will not be, or Dad will not be very happy about it. Baltimore County. Look at that. That's awesome. County. Near gunpowder. Meaning the river. Gunpowder. How about that? So, that is how they would have kept track of how much lime they made and how much they sold it for and whatnot. Because they would have had writing implements. And this is what people used for hundreds of years in Europe and in the America before the metal pen came about. I think that is just the coolest thing. Well, here we are on Mine Bank Run. And what does this got to do with history in the park? Well, this stream got its name from something that was found here. And it was a very important piece of history for the United States, especially during the Revolutionary War. We needed iron, we needed steel for weapons and other things. So this place gets its name for what was found here. So this stream is called Mine Bank Run. and it's named for the iron ore that is found to this day. And we're going to show you some right here. Let's take a look. And it's all around us. And right here, you can find it. So on one of your PDF guides, it's going to talk about iron and iron ore and iron oxides. And you'll know that you found this stuff because it's got like this, look at the shiny hue that it has. And look at the rust. So this is the stuff that would go into a furnace. And it would melt this. And it's really important because, for instance, my big old colonial knife, all right, that's steel. But how do you get steel? Well, you have to have iron to make into steel, and before you have iron, you have to have iron ore, and that's what this is. And this is found throughout this stream. So this was mined to create pig iron, and pig iron was then used during the war for cannonballs and gun barrels, you name it. So it's really important. Iron's most stable form, by the way, is not necessarily this iron ore, but something else. It's called iron oxide. Let's take a look. And you can find this down here too. Feel free to take a sample of it. There's a few billion tons of it here. So what you do is you look along this area until you find, you know, a rusty looking rock. It's not a brick. And this is iron's most stable form, right? Iron always wants to rust. What's rust? Rust is this. Rust is oxide. So watch what this does. We call these paint rocks. And this kind of thing is still used throughout the world. Now see this rock right here? Now watch what's going to happen here. Now you can make your own paint. Hang on. Wait for it. Wait for it. Look at that. Wow. Look, it looks like blood. Look at that. And that gets its name from that. It's called hematite. And this is a form of iron. Hematites are the reds and the purples and the oranges. And if you're lucky enough to find a piece of the yellow, that's called limonite. Look at that. Doesn't that look like blood in the water? It sure does. Even these little pieces, let's rinse this off. And feel free to do this in the stream. It's really a load of fun. And it's also part of history. See that? So hike into history. Look, this little piece. Let's see what it does. Oh, wow. Oh, where'd he go? There he is. Wow. Look at that. Look how it's bleeding into the stream. That is awesome. And this is stuff Native Americans used to paint their body. Look at that. Wow. And that is really cool. Look at all these things you can do and learn. It has to do with history. And look at the fun you can have. You can get wet and you can discover all these magical stones that are down here in Mine Bank Run. I think we should head back. So, boys and girls, we have come full circle today with our program, Hike into History. And look how fun it was. You know, we went to these different interesting places, and there's history all over the valley and in the park itself. And we had fun things to do, fun things to see, fun things to make. So don't let history scare you into thinking it could be boring. It's anything but. But the last thing I'm going to tell you is that history can be fun. I had a load of fun today. I sure hope you did, and we'll see you next time.